It's April 14th, 1912. Titanic is on the 4th day of her maiden voyage. And you may have noticed switched up the game. What I do nowadays, compared to the first time I did this, like for the few days, I go to a tiny sailor's world. But then to get more accuracy, I go to Titanic SOS for the sinking parts. As you know, today is the day that Titanic hit the iceberg. April 14th, 1912 at 11:40 p.m. But for now, Titanic is doing alright. Sunday prayer is held in D-Deck in the dining saloon. Let's feel back then we're Christians, so it's understandable. And ironically, I forgot the name of the hymn, but it was sung during the choir, not the choir, whatever, during the prayer service, and well, that song became pretty famous around Titanic. It goes like, "For those who peril on the sea." Anyways, and now we got interior because we're in this game. Forgot they had cabins. So since I didn't have the time, oh, I feel this whole damn phone wasn't that big of a drop. Anyways, since we have time, let's go and explore the Titanic, shall we? Over interiors more so. Pretty sure you got enough of looking at her from the outside from the first few days. Did they not add third class cabins? Because the more I think about it, yeah, I don't remember being in third class cabin in this game. I'm not even sure if they had second class cabins. On my wild goose chase to find the cabins, let's go ahead and look. Well, you'll get a good look of the ship. And to make sure I stop at 12 a.m., I got a nice little clock. We go right, they don't have the second class staircase. Such a big part of Titanic, I'm surprised they didn't add the second class stairwell. Alright, we got this. Do we have second class cabins? We do not have second class cabins from what I'm seeing. So, if you want to sleep, I guess you can only be first class. Didn't know if only first class got to sleep. That's obviously fake. Anyways. I'll talk a little bit about people that worked on the Titanic, but weren't necessarily hired by the White Star Line. So far the only two I know, there might have been more, I'm not sure, were first of all, the wireless operators. Wait, did they remove the wireless office? Oh, it's just back here. Yeah, but, Jack, Phillip, and Harold Bryan weren't hired by the White Star Line. They were more so just general, like, wireless operators that would work for, you know, all sorts of companies, not just the White Star Line. And the other few people, most of which I forgot their names, unfortunately. I'm pretty sure, well, I'm not sure if they all died in the sinking. But the musicians weren't hired by the White Star. Oh wait, they probably went down to the dining hall to use free cam. Okay, I don't know where they went, but oh, there they are. Yeah, but they weren't hired by the White Star Line. They were just general musicians, just like how the wireless operators weren't hired by the White Star Line. As it goes late into the day, this will be the last time the RMS Titanic saw daylight. For now, I'll just remain quiet and let you enjoy some cinematic shots I'll try to get. The sun has set on April 14th, 1912, and no one in the world would have known what would happen today and late into the night of April 15th, 1912. Now, it's not necessarily the time that these people will be on the deck. However, I do want to go a bit into detail about who would have been on the deck during the collision. First of all, we have Frederick Fleet and I forgot the other guy's name. They were on lookout whenever the iceberg was spotted, and Frederick rang the bell 3 times. The person who was at the helm was Quartermaster Robert Hitchens. And some of the officers that were on duty was my favorite officer, William Murdoch, and he has my favorite role, first officer. He'll be right here. James Moody had just made some tea, I think. We're not sure. That's just what I got from the Titanic movie, which is pretty accurate, but not the most accurate. But we'll just go along with it. Who answered Frederick's call and said. And, well, the conversation went with something like this. Frederick Lee would say, "Is there anyone there?" Moody would reply, "Yes, what do you see?" And then Frederick Fleet would immediately yell, "Iceberg, right ahead!" Now, well, I'll just leave what happens next. Then for the last officer, Joseph Boxhall was doing some work back here. He did hear the bell start to ring, but he did go onto the deck soon enough. The Titanic had already hit the iceberg by the time he got on deck. So, right now, Lighthauler will be on his shift. Yeah, because... would Murdoch? I'm not sure. Murdoch had like 10 to 2. I'm not sure. But sooner or later, Murdoch would take watch. And as Titanic sailed on, she only got closer and closer to an iceberg that was right in front of her. Back in Southampton, the original second officer had just gotten fired, so he was off the ship. And he had the keys to the binoculars. However, he forgot to hand them over back to the crew of Titanic. So Fleet would just have to look with his own eyes. So would the other look out. We're getting close to the time. During the time that it took Titanic to hit the iceberg, I'll go into more details about, the iceberg collision. So definitely by now Murdoch would be at the watch. I guess I'll just take the place of Murdoch. Murdoch, my goat. Rest in peace. So, an iceberg would be spotted. Frederick Fleet rang the bell 3 times. Moody would go ahead and answer the call that Frederick Fleet made to the maid.
Is there anyone there?
Yes, what do you see?
Iceberg, going ahead!
Thank you. Moody would go to warn Murdoch. Murdoch had already spotted the iceberg and ran to the wheelhouse. He then shouted, "Hard starboard!" As a tiller command, so patrolling the ship going to port. He would then go to the entrance and order full astern. They only had 37 seconds to get away from the iceberg. The Titanic was headed straight towards. That's all they could do. It was left to the engine room and the boiler room to do their duties to hopefully avoid the iceberg Titanic was heading straight towards. And despite all their efforts, the iceberg hit the Titanic on its starboard side, shoving ice all over her deck. Murdoch then ordered hard port to port around the iceberg. However, it was too late. 6 of Titanic's watertight compartments had already been flooded. The ship began taking on water at a hefty amount. Captain Edward Smith would soon arrive onto the bridge and ask Murdoch about what happened. He then explained to him how they hit an iceberg. He then ordered full stop, where Titanic's engines would be stopped for the last time. He then ordered Murdoch to find the carpenter and have him sound the ship. But Titanic's worst night had only just begun. Most of the passengers hadn't even woken up from the collision. I appear to have fallen in one of Titanic's funnels. Oh no. Well, don't ask me, well, you kinda suck. And I can't reset, I just remembered. Let me just go to the main menu. Inspections will be done by Mr. Andrews and some other people. I don't remember like the exact time of these events, I'm just trying to summarize them up real quick. Mr. Andrews would then report into the bridge with some senior officers, Ismay and Captain Smith, where he would explain how Titanic would sink in an hour or two at most. Seen with skepticism by the officers, they would begin setting up the lifeboats and venting steam to prevent the boilers from exploding. Titanic had 20 lifeboats, enough to only fit half of the ship's population. However, due to the common belief that Titanic cannot sink, most of these lifeboats were launched half empty. It's believed that only literally the last lifeboat was over capacity. Well, from what I heard, above or exactly at maximum capacity. Stress calls would also be made. The belief that Titanic could sink was also further proven when, shortly before Titanic's main voyage, her sister ship and my favorite ship, the RMS Olympic, had collided with the Hawk. And that ship was especially designed to ram into other ships to sink them. However, Olympic did not sink. Wait, why is this life phone number free? Wait. But that's... Well, they have some fixing up to do. This is lifeboat number 1. It's lifeboat number 1! Okay. There's more important things going on than lifeboat numbers. Do you remember the magical floating watch from Titanic? Wait, I forgot, do they have the Californian in this game? No, that's just a star, I think. That might be it. But the Californian was the closest ship to Titanic during her sinking. However, due to earlier being assaulted by Titanic's wireless operators, and Titanic setting up flares that were not even meant for emergency use, they didn't respond. But if they did, they probably could have saved way more lives. I get in trouble when I got stuck in Titanic's first funnel. I'm not gonna get stuck in the second one now. Ah! Do you remember when the guy fell off from the funnel on Titanic and died? Oh, it's almost 12. Titanic's band would soon start playing music. Earlier in the grand staircase, but shortly moving out to the deck. They would keep on playing music throughout the entire night to keep the passengers calm. We're famous for going down playing the song, Near My God to Thee. And as the clock strikes 12, Titanic's worst night had only just begun.